5 Black Friday / Christmas horror stories story. 1 to the Parking Garage Part 1. My name is Brianna, and I was 27 years old when this happened. It was Black Friday around 4:30 a.m., and I was walking through a parking garage in Atlanta, Georgia, heading toward a mall that was about to open for early sales. The garage was nearly full, even at this hour, packed with shoppers eager to get the best deals. I had parked on the 4th level in a dim corner where the overhead lights flickered and buzzed. That is, when I noticed the van. A white cargo van with no windows parked directly across from my parking space that had not been there when I arrived. Subscribe now and leave a comment below, because what was waiting in that van still haunts me. Part 2. Black Friday shopping was a tradition in my family. Every year since I was a teenager, my mother and I would wake up before dawn, drive to the mall, and spend hours hunting for deals. It was chaotic and exhausting, but it was our thing. That year my mother was recovering from surgery and could not come. She insisted I go without her, said she did not want me to miss out on the tradition. So I set my alarm for 3:30 a.m., got dressed in comfortable clothes and sneakers, and drove to the mall alone. The parking garage was already filling up when I arrived around 4:15. I circled the lower levels looking for a spot, but everything was taken. Finally, I found an open space on the 4th level in a far corner, away from the elevators. The area was poorly lit. 2 of the overhead fluorescent lights were flickering, casting strange shadows across the concrete walls. I hesitated before parking, but there were no other spots available. I locked my car and started walking toward the elevator, my footsteps echoing in the empty space. That is when I noticed the van. It was parked directly across from my car, backed into the space so the rear doors faced the driving lane. White, windowless, nondescript. The kind of van contractors use. I had not noticed it when I pulled in. Maybe I had been too focused on finding a spot, or maybe it had arrived after me. Either way, something about it made me uneasy. Part 3. I walked faster toward the elevator, my keys clutched between my fingers the way my mother had taught me. The elevator doors were about 50 feet away. I could see the button glowing in the dim light. Behind me, I heard a sound. A door sliding open. The side door of the van. I did not look back. I just walked faster. Footsteps now. Heavy footsteps on concrete, getting closer. I broke into a run. The elevator button was right there. I slammed my palm against it. "Hey, wait up!" A man's voice behind me. Friendly. Casual. I did not stop. I hit the button again and again. "Miss, you dropped something." I could hear him getting closer. 10 feet away. Maybe less. The elevator doors opened. I threw myself inside and hammered the close button. The doors started to slide shut. Through the narrowing gap, I saw him. A man, maybe 40, with a shaved head and a face that showed no expression. He was standing about 5 feet from the elevator, watching me. He was not holding anything. I had not dropped anything. The doors closed. Part 4. I rode the elevator to the ground floor. My heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. The mall entrance was crowded with shoppers' lines already forming outside the stores that had not yet opened. I pushed through the crowd, looking for security. I found a guard near the food court, a large man in a uniform that strained against his shoulders. "There is a man in the parking garage," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. 4th level. He followed me from a white van. He said I dropped something, but I did not drop anything. The guard's expression changed. He reached for his radio. Can you describe him? I gave him the description. Shaved head, no expression, maybe 40 years old. The white van with no windows. Stay here, he said. I am going to have someone check it out. He spoke into his radio. I stood near the food court watching the parking garage entrance, waiting. About 10 minutes later, the guard returned with another security officer. We checked the 4th level. There is no white van up there. That is impossible. It was right across from my car. We checked every space. No white van anywhere in the garage. I felt a chill run down my spine. The van had left. The man had left. But how had he known I would be alone? How had I known which elevator I would use? Part 5. I did not stay for the Black Friday sales. I asked the security guards to escort me back to my car, and they agreed. We took the elevator to the 4th level. My car was right where I had left it, but the space across from it, where the van had been, was now occupied by a small sedan. Maybe you were mistaken about the location, one of the guards suggested. I was not mistaken. It was right there. A white van backed into the space. They exchanged a look that told me they did not believe me. I got in my car and drove home, checking my mirrors, constantly watching for white vans. When I got home, I called my mother and told her what happened. You need to report this to the police, she said. So I did. I called the non-emergency line and gave them the details. The dispatcher took my information and said they would look into it. I did not expect anything to come of it. But 3 days later, a detective called me. Part 6. Miss, I am Detective Morrison with the Atlanta Police Department. You filed a report about an incident at the Lenox Square parking garage on Black Friday. Yes, that is right. I need to ask you some follow-up questions. Can you describe the van again? I gave him the description. White cargo van, no windows backed into the space. And the man who followed you? Shaved head, maybe 40, no expression on his face. He said I dropped something, but I had not dropped anything. There was a pause on the line. Miss, we have had 3 other reports from that same parking garage over the past 2 months. Same description. White van man with a shaved head approaching women who are alone. My stomach dropped. One of those women was assaulted. She fought him off, but she was injured. We are treating this as a serial predator case. Did you catch him? Not yet. The van does not show up clearly on the garage cameras, but we are increasing patrols in the area. He asked me more questions, took more details, and gave me his card in case I remembered anything else. I hung up, feeling sick. I had been targeted, chosen. If I had stopped when he called out to me, if I had waited for the elevator instead of running, I might have been another victim. Part 7. They caught him 2 weeks later. His name was Gerald Wayne Hutchins, 43 years old, with a history of assault and kidnapping charges in 2 states. He was caught because he got greedy. He tried the same approach on a woman who happened to be an off-duty police officer. She noticed the van, noticed the man following her, and called for backup. When they arrested him, they searched the van. Inside, they found rope duct tape, a tarp, and a change of women's clothing. They found photographs of women in parking garages taken from a distance. They found a notebook with dates and locations. Black Friday was circled multiple times. He had been planning to use the holiday shopping crowds as cover. More people, more chaos, more women shopping alone in the early morning darkness. I was in that notebook. Not by name, but by description. 4th floor corner space, alone. Late 20s, dark hair. He had been watching me before I even noticed the van. Part 8. Gerald Hutchins was charged with multiple counts of assault, attempted kidnapping and stalking. The evidence from his van and notebook helped prosecutors build a case that covered multiple victims across several months. He pleaded guilty to avoid trial and was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. I testified at his sentencing hearing. I told the judge what it felt like to hear those footsteps behind me in the garage, to see his face through the closing elevator doors, to know that I had been chosen as prey. The judge listened. So did Gerald Hutchins. He showed no emotion, just stared at me with those empty eyes. I have not been Black Friday shopping since then. The tradition my mother and I shared for years ended that morning in the parking garage. Now I do my holiday shopping online. I have packages delivered to my door. I never go to malls alone, and I never park in isolated areas. Some people say I am overreacting. They did not see his face. They did not hear his footsteps getting closer. If you go shopping during the holidays, please be careful. Park near the entrance under lights where there are cameras. Do not go alone if you can help it. And if someone tells you that you dropped something when you know you did not run, because that is not a helpful stranger. That is a predator testing whether you will stop. Story 2. The Fitting Room, Part 1. My name is Marcus, and I was 23 years old when this happened. I worked retail at a department store in Dallas, Texas during the Christmas season. It was December 23rd around 8:45 p.m. and I was straightening merchandise in the men's section when a customer flagged me down. She said there was something wrong in the fitting room area. A strange smell, she said, and sounds that did not belong. I walked back to check, expecting to find a forgotten sandwich or a clogged toilet. What I found instead made me call the police immediately. Subscribe now and leave a comment below, because what was hiding in that fitting room changed everything I thought I knew about safety. Part 2. Working retail during Christmas was brutal. The store was packed from open to close customers fighting over the last items on the shelves lines stretching halfway through the building. By mid-December, I was exhausted, running on coffee and holiday pay. The department store where I worked was one of the larger locations in the area. 3 floors of clothing accessories and home goods. The men's section was on the 2nd floor, near the back of the building, with a fitting room area tucked into a corner. December 23rd was one of the busiest days of the year. Last-minute shoppers desperate to find gifts, returns from people who had bought the wrong size, general chaos everywhere you looked. I was working the closing shift, 4 p.m. to 10 p.m., helping customers find sizes and restocking shelves as fast as items were taken. Around 8:45, a woman approached me. She was maybe 50, well-dressed with a concerned expression. "Excuse me, there is something strange in the fitting room area. I went to try on a sweater, and there is this smell, and I heard sounds, like someone breathing, but I could not see anyone." I thanked her and walked toward the fitting rooms, expecting a simple problem. Maybe someone had left food in one of the stalls. Maybe a pipe was leaking somewhere. What I found was neither of those things. Part 3. The fitting room area had 10 individual stalls, 5 on each side of a central hallway. Each stall had a door that went from about a foot off the ground to about 7 feet high, leaving gaps at the top and bottom. I walked down the hallway checking each stall. The first few were empty doors, standing open mirrors, reflecting nothing. Then I smelled it. The woman was right. Something was wrong. A smell that did not belong in a department store. Body odor strong and sharp, mixed with something else. Something rotten. I followed the smell to the last stall on the left. The door was closed, but I could not see any feet underneath. "Hello," I called out. "Is someone in there?" Silence. I knocked on the door. "Store associate, I need to check this stall." Still nothing. I pushed the door. It did not open. Something was blocking it from inside. Then I heard the breathing, slow, rhythmic, coming from inside the stall, like someone sleeping, or like someone pretending to sleep. Part 4. I stepped back from the door, my heart pounding. "I am going to get security," I said loudly. "Stay where you are." I walked quickly to the nearest phone and called the security office. "We have a situation in the men's fitting room. Someone is in the last stall not responding. The door is blocked from inside." Security arrived within 5 minutes. 2 guards, both large men who looked like they had dealt with situations like this before. They approached the stall and knocked loudly. "Security, open the door now." No response. One of the guards dropped to his knees and looked under the gap at the bottom of the door. His face went pale. "There is someone in there, sitting on the floor back against the door. And there is stuff. Blankets, food containers. Someone has been living in here." The other guard moved to the stall next door and climbed onto the bench, looking over the top of the partition. I can see him. Male, maybe 40s, appears to be unconscious or sleeping. There is a lot of debris around him. This person has been here for a while. They called the police. Part 5. The police arrived and cleared the surrounding area. They negotiated through the door, trying to get the man to respond. Finally, after about 10 minutes, they heard movement inside the stall. "I am coming out," a voice said. "Do not shoot me." The door opened slowly. The man who emerged was gaunt, dirty, with wild eyes and matted hair. His clothes were stained and torn. He looked like he had not bathed in weeks. The police handcuffed him and led him away. Then they searched the stall. What they found made everyone stop talking. The man had created a nest in the fitting room. Blankets, pillows, empty food containers stolen from the store's cafe. He had been living there for at least 2 weeks, hiding during business hours, coming out at night when the store was closed. But that was not the worst part. They found a notebook. Pages and pages of observations about customers. Descriptions of women who had used the fitting room, what they were wearing, what they had tried on, and photographs. Polaroids taken through the gap at the bottom of the stall door showing customers in various states of undress. Part 6. The man's name was Harold Eugene Vickers, 51 years old. He had a history of voyeurism and indecent exposure charges going back over a decade. He had discovered our store by accident, he told the police. He had come in to shoplift some food, and he had noticed the fitting room area was poorly monitored. He started sleeping there at night, hiding in a stall during the day. Then he started watching. The photographs in his notebook were evidence of weeks of voyeurism. Dozens of women photographed without their knowledge while they tried on clothes. Some of the photographs showed faces. Some showed more. The police worked to identify the victims, but most of them were impossible to trace. Holiday shoppers passing through never knowing they had been watched and photographed. Harold Vickers was charged with voyeurism, criminal trespassing, and possession of unlawful surveillance images. Given the volume of evidence, the prosecutor sought the maximum sentence. He was convicted on all counts and sentenced to 8 years in state prison. Part 7. The store closed the fitting room area for a week while they conducted a thorough inspection. They found evidence that Harold Vickers had been accessing the space through a maintenance corridor that connected to the back of the stall area. He had been coming and going for weeks, and no one had noticed. The company installed new security measures. Cameras in the fitting room hallways, though not inside the stalls. Motion sensors that would alert staff if someone was in the area after closing. Regular checks by security throughout the day. But none of that could undo what had already happened. I thought about all the customers who had used those fitting rooms while Harold Vickers was hiding in the last stall. The women who had tried on clothes checked themselves in the mirror, never knowing that someone was watching through the gap under the door. Some of them might have noticed the smell. Some of them might have felt uneasy. But they probably dismissed it, told themselves it was nothing. We are taught to ignore our instincts, to not make a scene, to assume the best. Harold Vickers counted on that. Part 8. I quit my job at the department store a month after the incident. I could not work in that building anymore. Every time I walked past the fitting room area, I thought about what had been happening just feet away from where customers were changing. Every time I saw someone heading towards those stalls, I wanted to warn them. But what would I say? Be careful, someone might be watching. The truth is, there is no way to know for sure. Fitting rooms are designed for privacy, but that privacy can be violated. And the people who violate it are patient, careful, and skilled at not getting caught. I work in an office now. No customers, no fitting rooms, no places where someone could hide and watch. But I still think about the women in those photographs. The ones who never knew they were being watched. The ones who went home and told their families about the dress they bought or the sweater they tried on, never knowing that someone had documented that moment in the most invasive way possible. If you use fitting rooms, please pay attention. Check for gaps in the walls and doors. Look for anything that seems out of place. Trust your instincts if something feels wrong, because you never know who might be watching, and you might never know until it is too late. Story 3. The Delivery Part 1. My name is Terrell, and I was 24 years old when this happened. I was working as a package delivery driver during the Christmas rush in suburban Chicago, Illinois. It was December 21st, around 6:45 p.m., and I was making my last delivery of the night to a house on a quiet residential street. The sun had set an hour ago, and the neighborhood was dark except for Christmas lights twinkling on front lawns. The house I was delivering to had no lights on, no car in the driveway, nothing to indicate anyone was home. But when I approached the front porch with the package, I noticed the door was open. Not unlocked, open. And from inside, I heard a voice calling for help. Subscribe now before I continue, because what was waiting inside that house nearly cost me my life. Part 2. The Christmas season was brutal for delivery drivers. Every day I would load my truck with over 200 packages and spend 12 hours driving through neighborhoods, running from door to door, trying to keep up with the endless flood of online orders. By mid-December, I was exhausted. My feet ached, my back hurt, and I had started dreaming about cardboard boxes and tracking numbers. But the overtime pay was good, and I needed the money. December 21st was supposed to be my last day before a 3-day break. I had been pushing through, counting down the deliveries, looking forward to finally resting. My final stop was a house on a cul-de-sac in a quiet suburban neighborhood. The kind of street where families put up elaborate Christmas decorations and kids played in the yards. But at 6:45 p.m. on a winter night, the street was dark and empty. Most people were inside eating dinner or watching television. The house I was delivering to was at the end of the cul-de-sac. A 2-story colonial with a detached garage. The lawn was well maintained, but there were no Christmas decorations. No lights on inside. I grabbed the package and walked up the driveway. The porch light was off, which was unusual. Most people left their porch lights on when expecting a delivery. That is when I noticed the front door. It was open about 6 inches. Not wide open, but not closed either. And from inside the house I heard a voice. "Help me. Please, someone help me." Part 3. I stopped on the porch, the package in my hands. "Hello," I called out. "Is everything okay in there?" "Please," the voice said again. It sounded like an elderly woman, weak and frightened. "I have fallen. I cannot get up. Please help me." I looked around the neighborhood. The nearest houses were dark, no signs of anyone outside. Protocol said I should call 911 and wait. Do not enter a stranger's home. Report the situation and let professionals handle it. But the voice sounded desperate. What if she was injured? What if she'd been lying there for hours? I pushed the door open a little wider. "Mom, I am a delivery driver. I am going to call for help." "Okay? Please come inside. I am in the kitchen. I cannot move." I hesitated. Everything about this felt wrong. The dark house, the open door, the voice calling from inside. But what if I walked away and she died? What if I could have helped and I chose not to? I made a decision that almost cost me my life. I stepped inside. Part 4. The interior of the house was dark. The only light came from the street lamps outside, filtering through the windows. "Mom, where are you?" "In the kitchen, straight ahead through the living room." I pulled out my phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing a normal-looking living room. Couch, television, coffee table. I walked slowly through the room, my instinct screaming that something was wrong. "I am calling 911. I said, pulling up the dialer on my phone. "No, please, just help me up first. The phone is in the kitchen. You can call from there." I reached the kitchen doorway and shone my light inside. The kitchen was empty. No fallen woman, no signs of distress, just an empty room. I felt the hair on my neck stand up. "Hello," I called out. A voice came from behind me. Not the elderly woman's voice, a man's voice. "Thank you for coming inside." I spun around. A man was standing in the doorway between the living room and the front entrance, blocking my exit. He was maybe 40 with a thin face and eyes that reflected my flashlight beam, and in his hand was a knife. Part 5. "Drop the phone," he said. His voice was calm, almost conversational. I did not drop the phone. I backed up into the kitchen, my eyes darting around for another exit. "The back door is locked," he said, reading my thoughts. "So are the windows. The only way out is past me. What do you want?" "Your truck, the packages, everything." He took a step forward. The knife caught the light from my phone. "I have been doing this for 3 weeks. Drivers like you making deliveries to empty houses. So trusting, so eager to help." My mind raced. The phone was still in my hand. The 911 screen was still open. I hit the call button and dropped the phone to my side, hoping the dispatcher would hear what was happening. "The truck keys are in my pocket," I said loudly. "I will give them to you. Just let me leave." "That is not how this works. You have seen my face now. I cannot let you walk out of here and describe me to the police." He took another step forward. I backed up until I hit the kitchen counter. Part 6. My hand touched something on the counter behind me. A coffee mug, heavy ceramic. The man was close now, maybe 6 feet away. The knife was raised. "Turn around," he said. "Face the counter. This will be easier if you do not see it coming." I gripped the coffee mug. "Okay," I said. "Okay, I will turn around." I started to turn, then spun back and threw the mug as hard as I could. It caught him in the face. He stumbled backward, cursing, his hand going to his eye. I ran. I sprinted past him through the living room toward the front door. He was right behind me, his footsteps pounding on the hardwood. I burst through the front door onto the porch, leaped down the steps, and ran toward my truck. Behind me, I heard him stop at the doorway. He did not chase me into the street. Too many potential witnesses. I got in my truck, locked the doors, and drove straight to the nearest police station. Part 7. The police arrived at the house within 20 minutes. The man was gone. But they found evidence of his operation. He had been using vacant houses listed for sale as hunting grounds. He would find a house with a delivery scheduled break-in and wait for the driver to arrive. The voice I heard was a recording of an elderly woman played through a speaker in the kitchen. His name was Dennis Ray Crowell, 43 years old, with a history of robbery and assault. He had been targeting delivery drivers for weeks, stealing packages and vehicles. But I was the first one to escape. The others had not been so lucky. The police found evidence linking Dennis Crowell to 3 assaults on delivery drivers in the area. All of them had been attacked inside vacant houses. All of them had been lured by the same recorded voice asking for help. One of them had been hospitalized with severe injuries. Another had required emergency surgery. I was lucky. The coffee mug and my willingness to run had saved my life. Dennis Crowell was arrested 2 days later at another vacant house, waiting for another driver. He was charged with assault robbery and attempted murder. He's currently serving 15 years in federal prison. Part 8. I quit my delivery job the week after the incident. I could not approach dark houses anymore. Every open door, every voice calling for help made me freeze with fear. For months afterward, I had nightmares. The dark kitchen, the man's voice behind me, the knife catching the light. I work at a warehouse now, sorting packages instead of delivering them. The pay is not as good, but I never have to knock on a stranger's door. The company changed its policies after what happened to me and the other drivers. Now, drivers are instructed never to enter a customer's home, no matter what they hear. If someone sounds like they need help, call 911 and wait outside. It seems obvious now. But in the moment with that voice pleading for help, my instinct was to go inside. That instinct almost got me killed. If you ever hear someone calling for help from inside a house or building, do not go in. Call emergency services. Wait outside. Let professionals handle it. Because the voice you hear might not be someone who needs help. It might be bait. And the predator might be waiting just inside the door. Story 4. The Mall Santa Part 1. My name is Jasmine, and I was 31 years old when this happened. I'd taken my daughter Maya to see Santa at a mall in suburban Detroit, Michigan. It was December 20th, around 3:15 p.m., and the line for Santa's workshop was long. Maya was 5 years old and excited to tell Santa what she wanted for Christmas. Everything seemed normal until I noticed the man. He was standing near the exit of Santa's workshop, watching the children as they came down from Santa's lap. He had no child with him, no shopping bags. He was just standing there, watching. And every few minutes, he would take out his phone and snap a photograph. Subscribe now and leave a comment. Because what that man was doing still makes me hold my daughter closer. Part 2. The Mall. Santa Experience was a tradition in our family. Every year since Maya was born, we had taken her to see Santa at the same mall. The workshop was elaborate, with fake snow reindeer decorations and a team of elves who helped manage the line. That December 20th was busier than usual. The line stretched past the workshop and into the main corridor of the mall. Parents shuffled forward with their children, everyone tired but trying to maintain the Christmas spirit. Maya was bouncing with excitement. She had memorized her list of toys and was practicing what she would say to Santa. We waited in line for about 45 minutes. When it was finally Maya's turn, she ran up to Santa's chair and climbed onto his lap. I stood at the designated photo spot, ready to capture the moment. That is when I noticed the man. He was standing about 20 feet away, near the exit of the workshop, where children came down after their turn with Santa. He was alone, no child, no spouse, no shopping bags, just standing and watching. At first, I thought maybe he was waiting for someone, a father whose wife was in line with their child. But he was not looking at the line. He was looking at the children on Santa's lap, and every few minutes he would take out his phone and snap a photograph. Part 3. I watched him for a few minutes, trying to figure out what he was doing. He photographed at least 4 children during the time I was observing him. Each time he would wait until the child was sitting on Santa's lap, then raise his phone and take a picture. None of those children were his. Their parents were standing at the photo spot, completely unaware that a stranger was photographing their kids. Maya finished her turn with Santa and came running toward me. "Mommy, I told him everything he said. I have been very good." I scooped her up, keeping one eye on the man. He was looking at us now, looking at Maya. He raised his phone. I turned away, blocking Maya from his view. "We need to go find a security guard," I told her. "Can you be brave for Mommy?" "What is wrong, Mommy?" "Nothing, sweetheart. I just need to talk to someone." I walked quickly toward the mall's information desk, carrying Maya, not looking back. Part 4. The security guard at the information desk listened to my concerns with a professional expression. "You say he was photographing children?" "Yes, multiple children. None of them were his. He was just standing there taking pictures." "Did you see him approach any of the children?" "No, but he was watching them, really intensely. It was not normal." The guard nodded. "I will have someone check it out. Can you describe him?" I gave him the description. Maybe 50 grey hair wearing a dark jacket, standing near the exit of Santa's workshop. "Stay here," the guard said. "I will be right back." He walked toward Santa's workshop. I watched from a distance, holding Maya close. The man was still there. He saw the security guard approaching and turned to walk away, but he did not leave the mall. He just moved to another location about 30 feet away, where he could still see the children in line. The security guard spoke to him briefly. I could not hear what they said, but the man showed the guard something on his phone. The guard nodded and walked back toward me. "He says he is a grandparent waiting for his family. He showed me pictures of his grandchildren. But he was photographing other people's children. I saw him." The guard shrugged. "Taking pictures in a public place is not illegal. I told him to be mindful of other people's concerns, but there is not much else I can do." Part 5. I was frustrated, but I did not know what else to say. The guard was right. Photographing in a public place was not against the law, even if it was disturbing. I took Maya to another part of the mall, trying to put distance between us and the man. We did some shopping, got ice cream, tried to enjoy the rest of our outing, but I could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. About an hour later, as we were leaving the mall, I saw him again. He was standing near the exit, watching families as they walked to their cars, and he was looking directly at us. I walked faster, pulling Maya along. We reached our car, and I got her buckled in as quickly as possible. As I was closing her door, I looked back at the mall entrance. The man was gone. But when I got in the driver's seat, I noticed something on my windshield. A piece of paper tucked under the wiper blade. I got out and grabbed it. It was a photograph. A photograph of Maya sitting on Santa's lap, taken from across the workshop. On the back, in neat handwriting, were the words, "Beautiful little girl." Part 6. I drove straight to the police station. The officer who took my report was concerned. The photograph, the note, the pattern of behavior I had described. It added up to something more than a random stranger. "Did you see what vehicle he was driving?" "No. I was too focused on getting Maya out of there." "The mall should have parking lot cameras. We will request the footage." They also requested the security footage from inside the mall. The cameras had captured the man photographing children just as I had described. They captured him following us through the mall. They captured him going outside before us and placing the photograph on my windshield. He had known which car was ours. He had watched us walk in from the parking lot earlier in the day. The police identified him from the footage. His name was Gregory Paul Whitmore, 54 years old. He was a registered sex offender with 2 prior convictions for crimes against children. Part 7. Gregory Whitmore was arrested 2 days later at another mall doing the same thing, photographing children with Santa, following families, leaving notes. When they searched his home, they found thousands of photographs of children taken at malls, parks, playgrounds, and schools across 3 states. They found notebooks with observations about children he had targeted, physical descriptions, locations where they had been seen, notes about their routines. Maya was in one of those notebooks. Her description, the mall, where we had seen Santa, even the type of car I drove. He had been watching us for longer than just that one day. He had seen us before at a park near our home. He had followed us to the mall. Gregory Whitmore was charged with violating his sex offender registration requirements, stalking, and possession of illegal images. The federal prosecutor also filed charges based on evidence found on his computer. He was convicted and sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. Part 8. Maya does not know what happened. She was too young to understand, and I have not told her. But I know how close we came. I know that a man was building a file on my daughter, watching her, photographing her, planning something. I do not take Maya to Mall Santas anymore. We do holiday activities at home where I can control who comes in and out. When we go to public places, I am constantly scanning the crowd, watching for anyone who pays too much attention to my child. Some people say I am overprotective. They did not see the notebook. They did not read the entries about my daughter. If you take your children to see Santa or to any holiday event, please pay attention. Watch for adults who seem too interested in the children. Notice if someone is photographing kids who are not their own. Trust your instincts. Because predators use the holidays. They know families are distracted, busy, caught up in the excitement. They count on us to look the other way. I will never look the other way again. And neither should you. Story 5. The Parking Lot, Part 1. My name is Devon, and I was 28 years old when this happened. It was Christmas Eve around 7:30 p.m., and I was doing last-minute shopping at a big box store in suburban Minneapolis, Minnesota. The parking lot was chaos cars circling endlessly for spots, people loading purchases into their vehicles. I had found a space near the back of the lot, far from the entrance, in an area where the overhead lights were dim. When I came out of the store an hour later, my arms full of bags, I noticed something wrong. A van was parked next to my car. A van that had not been there when I went inside. And someone was sitting in the driver's seat, watching me approach. Subscribe now before I continue. Because what happened in that parking lot still haunts me every Christmas. Part 2. Christmas Eve. Shopping was a last resort. I had put off buying gifts until the final day, and now I was paying the price. The store was packed with other procrastinators, all of us grabbing whatever was left on the shelves. I arrived around 6:30 and spent an hour finding what I needed. By the time I checked out, it was almost 7:45, and I was exhausted. The parking lot was still busy, but people were starting to leave. Families heading home for Christmas Eve dinners, couples rushing to wrap presents before midnight. I had parked in the back corner of the lot, the only spot I could find when I arrived. The area was poorly lit, with one of the overhead lights burnt out. I walked toward my car, my arms loaded with shopping bags, my keys in my pocket. That is when I noticed the van. It was parked in the space directly next to my driver's side door. A dark-coloured cargo van with no windows on the sides. It had not been there when I parked. The space had been empty. And someone was sitting in the driver's seat, watching me through the side mirror. Part 3. I slowed down, pretending to check my phone while I assessed the situation. The van was positioned so that its side door faced my car. If I walked to my driver's side door, I would be between the two vehicles blocked from view. Perfect position for an ambush. I changed direction, walking toward the front of my car instead of the driver's side. I would circle around and approach from the passenger side. As I walked, I watched the van's mirror. The driver's head turned, tracking my movement. I reached the passenger side of my car and set my bags on the ground. From this angle, I could see the van more clearly. The side door was slightly open, not all the way, just cracked a few inches. Someone else was inside. I could see movement through the gap. 2 people, one in the driver's seat, one in the back, waiting. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. Part 4, 911, what is your emergency? I am in the parking lot of the Target on Cedar Avenue. There is a van parked next to my car. 2 people inside, and I think they're waiting to grab me. What makes you think that? The van was not there when I parked. It is positioned right next to my driver's door. The side door is cracked open and someone is in the back. Can you get to a safe location? I am going to walk back toward the store. I picked up my bags and started walking, keeping the phone to my ear. Behind me, I heard a door open. I glanced back. The van's side door had slid all the way open. A man was stepping out. Big, wearing a dark hoodie. He started walking toward me. I walked faster. Part 5. MARM officers are being dispatched to your location. Can you describe the individuals? One is a large male dark hoodie following me from the van. The driver is still in the vehicle. I was almost running now, shopping bags banging against my legs. The store entrance was maybe 100 feet away. I could see people through the windows. Behind me, the footsteps were getting closer. "Hey, miss," the man called out. "You dropped something." I did not stop. I had heard that line before. It was classic predator tactics. I reached the store entrance and pushed through the doors, bursting into the bright fluorescent lights. I looked back through the glass. The man had stopped about 20 feet from the entrance. He stood there for a moment watching me through the windows. Then he turned and walked back toward the van. I watched as he got in the side door. The van started and pulled out of the parking space, driving slowly toward the exit. Within a minute, it was gone. Part 6. The police arrived about 10 minutes later. I showed them where my car was parked, described the van and the 2 men. They searched the parking lot, but the van was gone. "We have had reports of similar incidents in the area," one of the officers said. A dark-coloured cargo van, 2 males targeting shoppers who park in isolated areas. "What do they want?" The officer hesitated. "We are not certain. In one case, a woman was assaulted before she escaped. In another, a man's wallet and car were stolen." He paused. "You did the right thing by not approaching your vehicle. The positioning of the van, the open side door. That is a coordinated setup." They escorted me to my car and waited while I drove away. I checked my mirrors, constantly watching for the van. I did not stop until I got home and locked myself inside. Part 7. They caught them 2 weeks later. A woman at a different shopping centre had called the police when she noticed a van parked next to her car. Officers arrived in time to see the men approaching another shopper. They arrested them on the spot. Their names were Carl Eugene Pittman and Warren Dean Hobbs, both in their 40s. both with extensive criminal histories, including robbery, assault, and kidnapping. When they searched the van, they found evidence of multiple crimes. Personal belongings from victims, zip ties, duct tape, and a handgun. The police connected them to at least 8 incidents across the Minneapolis area. Shoppers targeted during the holiday season when parking lots were crowded and people were distracted. Some victims had been robbed. Some had been assaulted. 2 had never been found. Carl Pittman and Warren Hobbs were charged with multiple counts of robbery, assault, and kidnapping. The evidence connected them to the disappearances of a mother and daughter who had gone missing from a shopping center parking lot 3 years earlier. They are both serving life sentences without the possibility of parole. Part 8. I think about Christmas Eve sometimes. The dark parking lot. The van positioned next to my car. The man following me toward the store. If I had walked to my driver's side door, if I had not noticed the van, if I had ignored my instincts and assumed everything was fine, I would have been another victim, maybe robbed, maybe worse. The police told me I was lucky. I noticed the setup trusted my instincts and got to safety. Not everyone is so lucky. The holiday season is dangerous. Parking lots are crowded with distracted shoppers. People are carrying expensive gifts. They are tired, hurried, not paying attention. Predators know this. They use the chaos as cover. If you go shopping during the holidays, please be careful. Park near the entrance under lights. Look for vehicles that seem out of place. Notice if someone is sitting in a car next to yours when you return. And if something feels wrong, do not approach your vehicle. Go back inside. Call for help. Trust your instincts. Because the few minutes you might save by ignoring your gut are not worth the risk. Some dangers you do not get a second chance with. Stay safe this holiday season. And always, always pay attention to the parking lot.